A great evening and a warm welcome to our webinar on creating safe schools online as well as offline. So with the recent string of events and many unwelcome complaints of sexual assaults pouring in from all over schools, I think if there's one thing that we all need to tell ourselves, it is this: speak up even if your voice shakes. And this is what we need to exactly tell our kids as well as the future generations to come. On that note, this is Dr. Praveena here, founder School Skies and nodal physician by qualification. And it's my absolute pleasure to have you all on the portal today and welcome you all again on behalf of APJ Consultancy and School Skies. And I think it's quite delightful to have close to 640 registration for this webinar on this date. So it probably shows us that this is of prime importance. This topic is of prime importance as on date. So with that, I'd like to just set the context for the meeting. So the very simple motto behind this webinar is to create some sort of awareness and a very comprehensive understanding of things around child abuse, assault, and body safety measures and everything that surrounds that. So for that, we have a very interesting and expert panel here. So we have a speaker, Advocate Srujana, who's got a great experience with legal issues and POSH Acts. And a second speaker for the day would be Dr. Ajit Prasad Jain, who is quite a leader in the school industry to answer questions on CBC related or Tamil Nadu government rules. And lastly, I'd like to drop some brief tips and some important things on how you could create your online school in a very safe way, talking about the technological aspects. So that's about it for today. And with that, I quickly jump into introductions and I take the absolute pleasure of introducing our first guest speaker, Advocate Srujana. She is the founder of Dignitas Law. She's got close to 17 years of legal experience. She's enrolled with the Bar Council of Tamil Nadu. She is a specialist in POSH Acts, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Acts, writ and arbitration cases. She is also an excellent trainer, creating a lot of awareness about POSH and POXCO across many multinationals and organizations. So it's quite a pleasure and honor to have you here, Srujana. And that apart, Srujana is a good friend of mine. So I always have her advice on many things. So thank you, Srujana, for being here, and over to you, Srujana.
Thank you, Praveena, and good evening, everybody.
Yes. So what we have done is we have did a small survey. We've conducted a small survey. We've put forth a lot of questions. We've got a lot of questions from the audience here. So from that, I will be shooting a few of it. And as much as we would try to keep it elaborate, we may cut short on a few things. Nevertheless, you can throw your questions on the chat box, on the comment section, or on the FB comments. And Srujana will take it later if it's relevant to her, or sir, or I may take it at the end of the session. So Srujana, can you just tell us first, what is the protection available under the law for offences against women and children?
Yes, Praveena. In the present days, the increase in the number of offences against children and women is a clear indication of violation of fundamental rights. And it has been found that these offences are mainly due to inequality in the society. So we are hailing from a patriarchal society and we have the stereotypes like, men are strong, women are weak, men only can do this job, women cannot do this job. So the opportunities are not based on their skills, but only based on the gender. So to combat this discrimination, our constitutional law ensures equality of law, equality of opportunity, humane conditions at work, then reservations of seats for women in the municipalities and the panchayats, and many more. Apart from this, we have the Indian Penal Code 1860, which deals with offences like acid attack, rape, kidnapping, sexual assault, voyeurism, and so on. So, despite having these acts in place, we also have the special laws, which are actually the enactment is for a specific purpose, which is mainly for the children and to protect the women. For example, the Child Marriage Restraint Act, then Dowry Act, Domestic Violence Act. The POXO and the POSH Act are the more specific acts when it comes to sexual offences against women and children. So these two acts are very important.
Okay. So can you tell me, Srujana, what is the POXO Act? What is its full form? What does it deal with, etc.?
Yeah. Before we get into POCSO Act, let us know the background of it. Until 2012, we did not have any proper or a specific act which can protect the children, especially the male children. So this led to the existence of this act, and this act came into existence on Children's Day, that is on November 14th, 2012. So as per this act, any person below the age of 18 is considered as a child. The child can be a male child, a female child, transgender, or an autistic child also.
Okay. So when and how should a case be reported in case of, or is there any helplines? So how do we go about the reporting process?
Yes, definitely there are helplines, and you can report over phone through 1098, which is a child helpline, or you can even report directly to the police station. So once the police receives the complaint, or if the police refuses to take the complaint, you can even go to any other police station, because in these cases we have zero FIR, which means you can file in any police station. So once the complaint is received, the child will not be called to the police station. It is only the police, a woman who is in the rank, not below the rank of a sub-inspector, will go to the place of the child, wherever the child is comfortable. You know, that place, the person will go, the investigation officer will go to record the statements. And the investigation officer will also inform that to the child committee, child welfare committee. So if the child needs any medical support or counseling, so they ensure all that. So once this is done, the forensic details are collected, and also when the investigation process starts, they do it in an audio and video recording. They can also take the help of a translator or an expert if there is a need. So one most important aspect is that nowhere during the proceedings the child will face the accused. So that is one good thing. Okay. And yeah, so but the child can have the support of the parents or whomever the child feels comfortable. So once after all this recording is over, the next process is in the court, that is in the special courts. These cases are entertained in special courts. We have the POCSO court. A POCSO court is a very child-friendly court, and all the proceedings are in-camera proceedings, that is recorded through video conferencing. The child will only see the judge, and he or she will not see anybody else, though everybody will be present. So that is how the proceedings happen, to see to that the child is very comfortable. And in these cases, the burden of proof is on the accused, but whereas in the other cases, it is not so. Here, the accused should prove that he has not committed any offense. Otherwise, he is found to be guilty. Okay. And the most important thing is the case should also get over within 1 year, and no media should report, or no media should actually disclose any details about the child. So there is absolutely no reason to fear for any kind of proceedings, as it's a very child-friendly procedure.
Okay, so I think that is a very strong act as well, right? POCSO Act is also very strong and protecting the kids. So you mentioned the helpline. Could you just, let us know what that number was?
1098.
Okay, so that's a kind of calls or you can make, or you can also complain to your own authorities to start with if you have a committee, right?
Mostly it is in the police station. Okay. Okay. The first help can be from the parents, from the, the teachers. They can actually, help the child. To whomever the child first addresses this assault, they can go and complain. The child need not go to the police station.
Okay, great. So can you just elaborate a little bit on, what is sexual assault under this act? How do we define it? Because the child may not know, the women in the organization may not know, the teachers may not understand this. So how do you define that? Or what is it about intent? What is it about impact? Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, sexual assault is a physical contact. That is when one touches the private parts of the child or makes the child to do that to that person or to the other person, it is called as an sexual assault. Now, when this is done with penetration, either by penis or by any object or any body part or even by mouth, this becomes an penetrative sexual assault. Now, we also called an sexual assault as an aggravated sexual assault when it is done by a trusted authorities. For example, the police officials, army people, staff in an hospital, staff in an protection home, and when it is done by a very close relative, and when it is done by a person who is already convicted, or by if the child is below 12 years, and if after the commitment, after the offense is committed, and if the child is murdered, all these things, it comes under the aggravated sexual assault. And if you see the punishment for all these things, depending upon the gravity of the offense and also the age of the child, it varies. It can be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years. The most important thing in this act, when they say life imprisonment, it is for the entire life. The person, the offender or the abuser has to spend his entire life in the prison. And for some heinous crimes, a death sentence can also be given. So even a sexual harassment, like, following the child either directly or by electronic means, even that is punishable under this act. And using the child for a pornographic purposes, either for a commercial purposes or even just storing a pornography, even that amounts to an offense, and that is also punishable. Not just this, if a person instigates the other person to commit such an offense, even that is punishable. Or if he just attempts, but he does not commit, if he attempts, at least half of the quantum of punishment he will also be given.
Okay.
So what we have to remember most importantly is that when somebody comes across or when somebody has knowledge of the assault, and if he or she is not reporting, even that is an offense. For example, an institution, if they come to know that such an assault has taken place, and if they are not reporting, and they can, the punishment can be for imprisonment for 1 year.
Okay.
So with a fine. And these are the things. But one most important thing is they do not entertain a false complaint. So that is also there. So if it is just to defame a person or against a child, then again that is considered as an offense and is punishable. But if somebody has done a false complaint in good faith, or by the child itself, then it is not an offense. So these are the things one should remember when it comes to sexual assault and their punishments. The most important thing is, if one can remember that they will have to spend the entire life in the prison, and or they have to face the death. And this is the best awareness that we can bring to stop these crimes. So nobody would ever attempt such crimes.
Very true, Srijata. So how do we educate the kids on body safety? Is there any, because you've been a trainer with a lot of women organizations. So what do you train them on? Any 1 or 2 points that you can say?
Yeah, the most important thing is, it is unfortunate that the children are abused by the close relative, known people than the strangers. And today we are facing educated criminals, and it becomes all the more difficult to actually, find out like who can be an abuser or a predator. So the only option left with us is to teach the child about the good touch and the bad touch. A good touch is a safe touch, and a bad touch is an unsafe touch. Basically, we have to take the feelings into account when we are actually judging whether it's a good touch or a bad touch. A good touch makes the kid or the child feels happy about it, it smiles. And a bad touch is one which makes it actually scares the child. The child feels bad about it and it is not comfortable. So we have to, as parents, we have to teach our children to strictly say that, to say no, or, not allow our children to any strangers, if there are any strangers or even a known person for that matter, should not be allowed to touch their private parts. So only 2 persons, we have to tell them only 2 persons can touch the private parts. That is only the mother and the doctor. The doctor, that too in the presence of a parent. So this is very important. And we should also tell the children to not to go alone to a closed room with a stranger, if at all. In such instances, if he tries to remove or if he tries to lift the shirt or something like that, the child should immediately realize that it is a bad touch. We should teach them in such a way that the child should run away from that place without even looking back to a crowded place and come to the parent or the teacher and disclose this assault. So when such a thing happens, the parent or the teacher should give them full support. So we can teach these good touch and bad touch by buying some books on good touch and bad touch. So there are also some videos available in the YouTube which teaches good touch and bad touch. So this way we can teach our children.
Understand. So this, whatever we were speaking about was POXO, which is Prevention of Child Sexual Offences. So there is also POSH, right? POSH Act. So what is POSH Act, and will that also be applicable for the schools or where we have a lot of female members there? So how does that come into act?
Yes, 100%. POSH Act. Before getting into that act, this act came into existence in 2013, and until then, there was no act which actually can protect women from sexual harassment at the workplace. So in today's world, like both the husband and the wife, they both have to work. So only then they can sustain. So that is the thing. So when the women start working, the organization develops, or it also results in the development of the country. So for that purpose, this act has made it mandatory. So this act also came into existence only after a gang rape, which was done during the course of an employment to one Mrs. Banwari Devi. So to prevent such sexual harassments during the course of the employment and at the workplace, this act came into existence, and it has made it mandatory to all the institutions, colleges, organizations, whether private or public. So it says like if there are 10 or more employees in any school or institution or organization, they should definitely have this POSH committee.
Okay. So you mean to say that a POSH committee is mandatory in any organization with 10 and more people?
Yes.
And is it anything related to the number of women in the committee or women in the organization?
No, actually, if you see, the act only says 10 or more employees. It does not specifically say 10 women or 10 men. Even if it is an all-women organization or an institution, even if it is an all-men school, institution or organization, still this act is applicable. And also it says when you take an employees into account, it is not just the teachers or it is not just the employees who are working on a permanent basis. It can also be those working on a temporary basis or on an ad hoc basis should also be included in this list. So I'm sure most of the schools, they have definitely 10 or more employees, and which makes it mandatory for any school to have this POSH committee.
Okay, great. So just another question, very specific to schools or educational institutions. So how could schools create awareness on this? What are the trainings they need to conduct, or is there any kind of posters or sort of awareness materials that they can put in on their campuses or notice boards? Any small hints on those things?
As I told you, now sex education is no more a taboo, because more damage is happening when the children are not aware of all these things. So that is one thing. So the school, on the other hand, they can definitely float an anti-sexual harassment policy, and that policy can be displayed in the notice board. And so this policy will state everything with regard to the zero tolerance of any such offenses. And there are also trainings given on this part, on teaching them what is an welcoming act and what is an unwelcoming act, and what you should do and what you should do not do, and what is the punishment if at all you do, and all these things will be there in the policy. So that should be put up in the notice board or in the display board, so that it is easily accessible to the children or any women or any visitor coming to the thing. Even a housekeeping person, if she is abused, she also can go and complain in the internal committee. That is the POSH committee.
That's nice. So maybe it is that, access to, authorities to complain. That's the primary point, I guess. So even putting
yes,
a website will help, I guess.
Sorry, Praveena. They should also put up the phone numbers. It is of the, say, in the internal committee, as I told you. The internal committee has 4 members, out of which 1 will be an advocate. An external member mostly will be an advocate or an NGO. So to make it more accessible, they have to put the numbers, phone numbers of all the committee members, so that they can directly call them and tell them whenever such a thing is happening. So immediately that can be addressed.
Okay, that's great. So who can actually complain? Is it the victim or a victim's associate, or it is like a friend, or who should take the complaint forward, either to the committee or to the police station? Who will take it forward?
In case of POSH Act, if the complainant is of facing in case of a physical incapacity, then a friend, colleague, relative, or any person who has the knowledge of the incident with the consent of the complainant can do that. And in case of a mental capacity, it can be incapacity, it can be a psychiatrist, psychologist, a special educator along with the other persons can do that. Suppose if the complainant has died, then the legal hire can do that. For any other reasons, any other person who has the knowledge about the incident with the consent of the complainant, they can do that.
Okay. So Shrujana, so I think you elaborated a bit on what is POCSO, what is POSH, and a few things that the school can start off with: committee, creating awareness, coming up, speaking up, and all that. But nevertheless, as a legal expert with so many trainings that you've done, is there any general advice that you like to give all of us, including the parents, teachers, students over there? So is there any closing remarks that you want to leave us with?
Yes, I would say that it is an collective responsibility of all to show zero tolerance to these kind of offenses. So firstly, the parents should teach their children good touch and bad touch. They also should teach their boys to treat the girls equally. And also, it is very important that the parent, at least one of the parents, sits with them in a day and tries to discuss if any such thing is happening around them, or if they find the child is indifferent. So they have to immediately notice those changes in the child and take the action, take the efforts, like, to find out and give them the support. So that is on the parent side. And secondly, on the teacher side, as I told you, they have to, sex education is no more a taboo, and they can teach that in schools. And similarly, they also, if a student is coming and approaching them with this kind of an assault that she has faced, they should not treat the student indifferently. Instead, they should give the entire support. And the management or the school, as I told you, should mandatorily constitute this IC committee, and also make this periodical trainings, putting the policy in the display board with the numbers of the IC, phone numbers of the IC committee members. And last but not the least, the most important thing, it is time that we change the perspective of the society. Most of the time we have been victimizing the victim. That is, for example, like we say, like, it is because she dressed that way, and this abuse has happened. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. She should have avoided this. So that is the reason this happened. So it is because of this fear and the stigma, many of them are not coming up or reporting the cases. So, and this is the main reason where the abuser is taking advantage and committing the offense very repeatedly. So it is time that we support the victim without judging, because anybody could be a victim. There is no exception for this. And most importantly, any number of laws in the in the country cannot protect or stop these offenses unless we raise our voice, invoke the provisions under law, and create a fear or threat in the minds of the offenders by punishing them immediately. That is very important. We should punish them immediately. So be the change you want. Show your zero tolerance. That's when we can see a change in the society, and we can ensure a safe, secure India for our present as well as the future generations.
Thank you. Thank you, Srijana. That was so well said, and I completely second that. I think it is so true that a lot of times we as a society shadow box this stuff. So we like to put it behind, or sometimes it's just a matter of it's happening, that's it. So I think when we raise our voices, it's not just about POSH or POCSO, it's about each one of our voices that will help a lot of students and women alike in the community to come out of such hassles. So thank you once again for this an explanation, very elaborate ones. So with that, we will move on to our
Praveena.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Praveena, just a minute. I would like to answer a question what you asked to Sujana, that how schools can make it to the students about the sexual harassment, the bad touch and the good touch, etc. Actually, as an educationist and as a principal, I will suggest it is a prime duty of the school counselor to take this job, and whenever she is talking to the children, whenever the children are coming to her, she has to make it very clear about the bad touch and the good touch. And now CBSE has made it mandatory that every school should have a counselor and also should have a special educator. I do not know whether the CBSE has forecasted all this, what the present scenario in Tamil Nadu. Some years back, the CBSE has made it mandatory. Without that, even without proper or any other subject teacher, they will give affiliation. But without a counselor, without a special educator, CBSE is not giving the affiliation. I'm very clear about it. Therefore, it is a duty of the school counselor to take it forward. And also, the CBSE is the only board, in my opinion, out of the 34 boards in the country, has brought the gender sensitivity as one of the major subject in schools, and giving a lot of importance on that and conducting a lot of competitions on gender sensitivity, etc. Thirdly, now CBSE has given very clearly, which I'm going to show in the circulars, and what is the composition of the complaint committee for the children, and what is the sexual harassment committee, who should be the member, all that. And Sujana was mentioning that even if a non-teaching staff is being harassed, then she can give a complaint. But the CBSE has given very clearly that a non-teaching staff also should be a member in the committee.
Okay.
So they very clearly given the composition. So in my opinion, CBSE has given everything well in advance, but it's very unfortunate that we principals, we educators, we have not given proper attention to this, and that is why we have landed in the problem today.
Okay. So I think that was a valuable add-on, sir. You could take over from there, because I just give a brief intro. So for those who don't know Dr. Ajit has been a great school leader to start with. He speaks out of experience, not out of books. So that's something that stands out, and he's ex-governing member of CBSE, a national awardee, and he's been a absolutely wonderful principal for many of the students and parents alike, and teachers. He's been a great motivator for many teachers. So, sir, I mean, it's over to you. You explained a few things. There are, we have a list of questions for you, which we've got various stakeholders. So I'll start off with this. What's your comment on the current scenario with all the allegations put forth? I mean, we'll keep it simple, and what's your opinion on that?
Actually, it is very, very unfortunate, and every educator should feel ashamed of what has happened in some of the schools, and now some colleges also in the rope. They also given complaint about 1 or 2 colleges also, I heard in the news day before yesterday. Our ancestors have put Mata, Pita, Guru, Deva. So they put the God at the last. First, the Mata who has given birth to us, the earth, and then Pita who is responsible for our birth. And third one is the Guru, and then only the God comes. So therefore, very clearly our ancestors are given a vital role for the Gurus to act in the life of a child. And when the same Guru is misbehaving like this, it is very shameful on the entire teaching fraternity. And it is very unfortunate. Whether it is true or not, it is up to the police to find out. The complaints have been given, the management has not looked into the complaints, etc. All that. But in my opinion, no management would have kept quiet when receiving such kind of a complaint. Definitely they should have given some advice or something they would have done, but it is up to the police to find out. But in my opinion, what has happened is very shameful, and at least now we have to wake up ourselves and then see what CBSE has told and what CBSE provisions are given. What is the judgment of Supreme Court, Apex Court has given about the sexual harassment, about the POSCO Act, etc. All this we need to implement. We should not, as usual, filing the circular and sending to the library. Now we cannot do all this. Now we have to be vigilant. Now this particular pandemic has already created a new normal in the administration, and we have been talking about the new normal in the administration right from the last March. We have done so many webinars in the same platform along with the Dr. APJ Consultancy and School Sky. Now, along with the new normal, whatever I have spoken, now this new sexual harassment has come inside. Now we have to put ourselves in the shoes of every affected principal of the 6 schools or 7 schools in Chennai, and we have to see how best we can deliver the best safety aspect for a child. So, sir, what is the composition of the sexual harassment committee put forth by CBSE? Any rules pertaining to that? Any new? They are given very clearly. I'll show the circular. Sure, sir. This is protection of child from sexual offense, POSCO Act 2012. In this, they very clearly given what is the gender sensitive learning material, and then role of schools, the teachers, management, and all employees of the institution need to be made aware about the provision of the Act, some of which cast a duty on them to report the instance of child abuse as section 19(1) and 21. So this POSCO Act has given very clearly that it is a duty of all the employees, whether it is a teaching or a non-teaching, all the employees of the institution, they are responsible to report any abuse. Now, if you see the 7th point, school complaints committee consisting of principal or a vice principal, 1 male teacher, 1 female teacher, 1 female student, 1 male student, and 1 non-teaching staff member must be set up to serve as a complaints committee or redressal body. An improved response system and alert administrative machinery is required to take immediate action on reported cases of misbehavior. This is what the school complaint committee, the CBSE, has given. And also now in the new affiliation bylaw, in the new SARAS, SARAS system, the new affiliation regenerated system, they are given provision that all the details about this committee should be published in the school website, and the link has to be given to CBSE when they are applying for affiliation and other things. So now CBSE also, this has happened 3 months back, bringing all this into black and white and put everything in the website, put the school society registration certificate, school safety certificate, and also the details about the sexual harassment committee. All that has to be available in the school website. Every public should be able to see, not only the parents. So therefore, before all this is happening, CBSE has foreseen all this, and they're given all the details to the schools. Now, we, the school leaders, have to act upon this. So that is very clear. This is a circular given in the year 2014, which is available in the website, or you can Google it also. CBSE circular on POSCA Act.
Okay.
And whoever wants it, they can write to me, or they can visit my website. It will be uploaded in my website. Point number 7, principal or vice principal, 1 male teacher, 1 female teacher, 1 female student, 1 male student, and 1 non-teaching staff. These should be the composition of the committee.
That was very informative, sir. So you are telling us that it all has to be transparent on even on the website, so it's available to everybody.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, so is there any other precautions that the school should take? Because I think preventive is always better than interventive, so we need to be on the guard. So anything else from the school side that as a precaution they can take?
In 2004 itself, CBSE has sent one more circular, 16th February 2004, the judgment of the Honorable Apex Court in case of Vikasha and others and state of Rajasthan about the POSCA Act, what the Sujana was talking about. So they are given very clearly, set up complaint mechanism in the school to deal with complaints of sexual harassment and to constitute a complaint committee which should be headed by a woman and not less than half of its members should be women. Such complaint committee should involve a third party, either an NGO or other body who is familiar with the issue of sexual harassment. This is what Sujana was mentioning about the POSCO Act as a Supreme Court judgment. And this was issued in the year 2004. And apart from this, in 2012, CBSE has given a separate complaint committee in this is about the sexual harassment in the workplace. This circular is based on the judgment, sexual harassment in the workplace. This is mainly for the teachers, and CBSE has brought this 2012 circular for the complaints against the sexual harassment on the children. So both the committee, we need to look into it now.
Okay. So I think there are a lot of checkpoints in place right now.
Yes.
So thank you, sir. Thank you for elaborating a little bit of all of this. So, sir, just as a closing remark, what is your suggestion or advice to all of us administrators, teachers, parents, and you can just speak a bit from your mind.
Yeah, I would request all the principals. First, see, earlier when you and me were students, we used to have a moral instruction period, 1 period per week. Now it has gone. Then it has come as SUPW, socially SUPW 1 period has come. But unfortunately, for our convenience, we have converted that SUPW into computer science class. So therefore, now there is no separate moral instruction period. But whenever we are sending the substitute teachers, we should tell them just not to go to class and ask the students, do what you want to do, don't make any noise. And this teacher will do her own work. Now it is mandatory for all the principals to instruct the teachers whenever and wherever possible, talk to the children about the bad touch and good touch, and also about the child safety in the school, and all that. We have to sensitize the children, whether it is a boys or a girls. We have to sensitize both the gender. Then only the combined responsibility will come. So my sincere request to the principals now is make use of your counselor properly and have at least one competition in a month about the gender sensitivity, so that the children will aware what is gender sensitivity, and all these problems can be reduced. I cannot say it cannot be eradicated from the system, but it can be reduced, and they will be alert. The children will be alert. So therefore, now we have a major responsibility on the shoulders of the school counselors. And also, as an administrator, we have one more responsibility of keeping an eye on the children's safety in the schools. Though we have CC system, etc., in spite of all this, and this is happening, and nobody would have even think of this in their own dreams, that this kind of things will happen in the online class, right? So therefore, it is mandatory for all the principals. Now, state government has brought a rule that the online classes should be recorded, and every recording should be reviewed by a 2-member committee. Out of 2 members, 1 member should be a teacher and another member should be a PTA member. So they have to go through each and every recording, and we cannot say we cannot say anything now, because suddenly one fine day morning CBSE may ask before going for affiliation, extension, etc. How we are submitting our minutes of the meeting for the SMC, School Management Committee. They may ask submit the records for online classes, verification of the recordings. So we have to be very clear. We have to create our own system in the school now. The recording should be done, and each and every recording should be verified by committee, and it has been minuted. And better you make a logbook of your online classes every day, and also recorded done, and where it has been kept in the computer, and it has been reviewed by whom on what date, and get the signature in a logbook. Then only we will be saved. Otherwise, all the administrators will be in a great soup later.
Thank you, sir. So I think that was pretty much elaborate, both the ways, offline classes as well as I think the recent state government rules on online classes and mandate recordings of that. Told very well about that, sir. So thank you so much, and thank you for being here with us. So with that, I'll quickly, yes, Srijana.
Praveena, we just missed out on one important aspect.
Yes, go ahead.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah,
please.
Yeah. So this is about when it comes to sexual harassment of women, the most important thing is that the act says any act or a gesture which is of sexual nature and which is unwelcoming. So one has to really understand the fine line between what is welcoming and what is unwelcoming for a woman. So for example, an unwelcoming acts are those women feels uncomfortable, angry, demotivated, demeaning, and these are illegal acts. And the welcoming acts are those which makes the women feel happy, appreciated, motivated. So the most important aspect is that the act says the intent does not matter, the impact matters, which means a person cannot hug and say, no, I did it with a good intent. You know, he cannot say, I just hugged the women only to appreciate her. But if that is unwelcoming for the women, he should stop doing it. Otherwise, it amounts to a sexual harassment. And secondly, the most important thing is always they say that we should look at only the women's perspective and not the man's perspective. So all these things will be in an inquiry conducted by the POSH committee, all these things will be considered. And when there's for non-compliance of the act, we have 50,000 fine for the first time, and if repeated 1 lakh, and if still they do not constitute a POSH committee in a school, then the license can be cancelled or it can be deregistered. So that's one thing which I wanted to add.
Thank you. I think it makes sense, because it's not about the intent, it's about the impact that you have on the woman on the other side.
Yes.
Thank you, Srijana. So I think I'll quickly move on to my part of the session. So I'll just throw some tips on how to create classes safely online. So I think we've come a long way. It's almost become technology classes 100%. It's not even a partial shift. It's 100% shift to online. So, and it is so important and pertinent that we ensure that the classes are safe online as well. So if you see, the POCSO Act even applies to online classes. So that's something that we should share. So curbing harassment and ensuring safe online classes today is becoming like very, very super important, and this cannot be done by one person or a teacher or a parent. So it is going to be a very comprehensive, very cohesive, collaborative effort from all the stakeholders in the educational community. So keeping these things in mind, I'll just allow me a moment to share the screen. Okay. Yeah. So can you see my screen, sir?
Yeah.
So I'd done another session with Kaveri Hospitals on when we read something about the ICE train, spoken elaborately on online classes and its safety. So this is a bit from that, and hope this helps. And if there's any questions, do leave it on the chat box as well. So when you consider classes online, it's not just about infrastructure or IT things. It's a lot more than just a matter of IT. So let me start with the pain point. First of all, what is the pain point? Why are these harassment acts happening, or why is it not being reported? So statistically, this is something for online that I've taken, but whether it is online or offline, the main barriers are this. Either the victim is too embarrassed, or the students, they do not want to go off internet. They may think that the parents may curb internet access for them. So they may think that their parents may blame them because they're sitting on the net for a long time. So they'll probably be worried about what will happen next. And they would probably be worried if suppose there is some authoritative person involved in harassment, they may think he or she may get targeted again. So these are the major things that children think too much, and that's what curbs them from going ahead. So having spoken about the pain point, how do we approach this? How do we solve this when you are online? So we simply put it like this: it's 3 C's to protect your kid. So it's content, it's contacts, and it's conduct. So these 3 are like very, very important when you take the online bandwagon. So talking about content, exposure to the right amount of content, the correct content, and approved types of content will stay primary. So talking about contacts, are we frequently monitoring what the kids are, who are the kids are in contact with, whether they're chatting with anybody, whether they're WhatsApping anybody outside their own comfort zone? So all of this will become important. So in the current context, the conduct becomes very, very important. So are we having security policies online? So are we taking the right sort of online portal? So whichever portal you take, whatever be it on Microsoft, G Suite or whatever, have you put forth certain security policies and communication? So these are the things that we need to look into. So coming to the important aspect, which is conduct. So like I said, first the policies, setting up policies, like making the recordings mandatory, not allowing one-to-one call and chat between the children, blocking guest access. So if it should not be about just sharing your links, it should be about each individual having an individual password and login. So literally your entry into the school should be like, a virtual school where each kid has her own key. And then it should be about obviously about the online appropriate behavior. Are we talking about it completely as a community, as a school teachers, administrators, parents? Is this made visible to everybody? So that is something that you need to look upon. And 2-factor authentication. So sometimes some schools ask us, so we do give that. So it is like apart from the mail and password, we have another layer of security where you would seek some other detail of the person who's logging in, maybe the phone number or an ID or something like that. So that's something that we need to be careful with. And of course, like to state that POCSO is also applicable for online. So it is not that when something happens online, it is very casual, it's not going to be counted. It is as serious as it is offline. So online classes need to be monitored, and it should be reviewed. And if there is something that is wrong, it has to be reported as well. So AUP, so talking a bit on this acceptable user policies. So I think if every school, last year we went online a bit too fast. This year we have a lot of time to set up, to think. If we draft acceptable user policies, like Srijana was sharing about the committees, if we could draft policies within our school community and student community, so you come to an understanding of what is an accepted behavior between staff, student. When you use technology, what is the kind of recordings that you will show, what is the classes you do, what is your dress code, those things. So if you could circulate these policies among your stakeholders, it will be great. And we could also have an internal committee to report the online classes. So how we do that, we can create one from each of the class and one head who will put forth and see what was the recording done at random. So that can be done. And talking about cybercrime, even with all precautions and everything, we have to assume that crime is going to happen, and there's going to be fallbacks. So there's always portals. You can report to Cybercell in person, in private. Then there is always cybercrime.gov.in where you can put up your activity, I mean crime or whatever assaults that the kid or the teacher is facing. So this is also fully there. So coming to point 2, content. So content, again, this is in general, not just about the online classes. You have to ensure that your children's, all other unnecessary websites are blocked. So you filter content for them, you impose time limits. You can have your gadgets on only for 3 hours. For games, it is 1 hour, for classes, 4 hours. You can set this all up. There are a lot of lovely apps, including the Microsoft Family app is there. A lot of apps are there, free apps are there to help you set parental controls. And of course, monitoring what the kid is doing will also become of primary importance. So talking about parental controls, be very, very cautious. It has to be in complete dialogue with your kid. It has to be, partnership between the parent and the kid. It cannot be coveted or without telling him. It has to be clearly told to him that it is safe for you and that is why we are doing it. So winning the kids' confidence when they go online is very important for both the parents as well as the teachers. Contacts, of course, this again, cyberbullying can happen. It is it's like kind of usually bullying is from attackers outside of your organization. Nevertheless, now the situation shows it could be from anybody. So you have to educate the kids as to what is bullying, what are the bully languages that they use online and how they should say no to it and not obliged by what they're seeing online. So definitely change passwords, protect passwords, and use all platforms that is only password protected. So sharing of links in a group for an online class, just that way will not help. So every individual should have an individual login password. So only that particular person should be able to enter the class. A general link will definitely not help because it can be passed to anybody through WhatsApps or any other means. So that's about contacts and cyberbullying. So in short, we can educate the kid with a very small, note, telling him that, I will tell an adult if I see something scared or uncomfortable online, I will ask my parent or guardian to be, before sharing any personal info online. So I will not meet anybody I met online in person. And most importantly, coming to the recording points, all of the recordings can be stored. So if you are using a platform like Teams, it could be moved to Streams. You have storage of up to 1 TB space there. So up to 5 lakh videos can be stored on Teams. So all of this can be stored under channels. So you can categorize it as, for standard channels. You can add teacher to that and you can ensure that that teacher stores and monitors those and also replace it whenever required. So that is, the beauty when technology is put to proper use. So you don't lose any of your content. You can have it for years to come. That's like really very nice aspect of technology. So in short, so it's we have to create that student triangle of support. So it's the student, the parent and the teacher. So it's absolutely this kind of very, very collaborative effort that will help a student sail through their online journey in a very, very safe way. So I think it's a matter of communication. It's a matter of putting rules together and stepping up the IT infrastructure in the school. So at School Skies and APJ, we are very happy to share, delighted and humble to say that we've done a lot of webinars outside of just being in the product space. So also creating awareness, addressing a lot of concerns that crop up then and there. So we've onboarded a lot of schools, close to 50 plus schools, and almost 1 lakh parents are there on the portal. That apart, our team conducts a lot of webinars every day, almost talking about the security policies they can put on their online classes or on their school management solution. So this is all of this is in addition to whatever we are doing with the existing schools. So I would like to leave you with a very simple thought that we finally need to step up and speak up. And ultimately, there's just one thing that matters. We need to protect our children in any education environment. So that is the primary focus, protecting our kids. So step up in terms of IT or in terms of technology we use or in terms of, whatever facilities we are providing for the kids, and speak up simple to break shackles, to break taboos like what Shrujana was telling. So that itself is, entering towards creating a very, very safe school online or be it offline. That I think I should say a big thanks to all of you who spent their valuable time with us this evening. I hope this was very useful, and we definitely want you to succeed, not just in being a very, very tech-enabled school, but also being a very safe school. So I thank all of you on behalf of APJ Consultancy and School Skies here. And I also thank Srujana for being here and educating us a lot on the legal aspect of POXO and POSH writ queries. So I am sure there are a lot more that Srujana wants to talk. In vogue of time, we've really cut that short. But you can get to her at srujana@adv.gmail.com, or you can call her at 9444298877. So please feel free to reach out to her or write to her just to get an idea or opinion on your queries. And of course, it's a pleasure to welcome you all to join us. We have 5 p.m. webinars every day. So we create secure demo schools for whoever is joining us. We also teach you on the kind of policies, the setting up and security policies, recording policies, how you could do that. So you can call us at 999-402-1195. So maybe you can take a snapshot of this, or you can write to us at schoolsupport@schoolskies.com. And of course, Ajit sir is always there in case you have any doubts on the regulations or the CBSE path. Do get to Ajit at apjedu.in. So that's about it. And once again, thank you all for being here with us and hope to see you soon. So we can call this a wrap, and I'm going to leave the house open for Q&A. Just in case there are questions, sir, probably we can take it if you could publish that. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, sir, I think, thank you so much, Srujana and sir too.
Thank you, Praveena, for this opportunity, and thank you all.
So if you could stay on for just a small click.
Yeah.
Sweetlin, you can let me know when you're done. Okay, I'm just going to do this myself. Okay, thank you, Srujana. Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Praveena, for this opportunity.
Thank you.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Bye-bye. See you.
Thank you, sir.